Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Contra Costa Transportation Authority Admin and Projects Committee meeting. Today is Thursday, September 5th. I am Julie Pierce, will call the meeting to order and ask first if there is anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on any item not listed on today's agenda. Seeing no one come forward, we will close the public comment period and go to the approval of the minutes. Any changes, additions, corrections, or a motion for approval?
Second.
Motion by Taylor, second by Arnrich. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? That carries unanimously. We have a very long consent calendar. Is there anything anyone wishes to pull from the consent calendar for separate consideration? Or a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Arnrich, second by Geringer. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries unanimously. We are on to our regular agenda items, and I am understanding that there is quite a backup on 880 or on Highway 80, and people are on their way. So Lindsay has asked if we can take things out of order. So let's skip legislation and go to item 15, which is a resolution electing to be subject to Government Code Section 22893 regarding health vesting requirements for future annuitants. And we have a staff report from Terry Ann.
Good morning, Chair Parrish and Commissioners. This item is being presented this morning to consider adopting the CalPERS health vesting requirements for future annuitants that will be hired on November 1st or after. I just want to start off by saying that this is not a new benefit. It's a benefit that already exists. However, we're trying to refine that benefit. A team of Randy, Lindsay, Brian, and I reviewed the different scenarios and options, and we looked at it from a financial, legislative, and human resources perspective. We considered three options. The first was just to remain status quo, and basically what that is right now is that the current employees only need 5 years of CalPERS service, and that's with any agency, and then they can get 95% of the monthly premiums for health benefits. This option is a potential liability, although no one has exercised it to date. So then we considered the option of seeking legislation. However, that would have taken nearly a year-long road to craft a version of what CalPERS is already offering, and would have required a sponsor for the bill. And we just, as you know, with the legislative process, there's a lot of unknowns. So then we looked at the CalPERS option, which was just slightly different than what we had been considering. It was, readily adopted under current regulations, and it ensured that the program would be administered long-term for all current and future retirees. If something were to happen and the agency no longer existed, it would ensure that CalPERS would continue to administer this program. So of the three options, we did select the CalPERS vesting and felt that it would be the best choice for the authority. We want to remain an employer of choice, but reduce our long-term risk and potential short-term liabilities through eliminating this loophole. What the CalPERS vesting basically requires that a minimum of 10 years of CalPERS service, credited service, to receive 50% of the designated employer contribution, and that would require 5 years of that to be here at the authority, and that's really what we were looking to add to our current benefit. It would be an option for current employees to opt in, but it would not affect any of the current employees. They would have an option on an annual basis to do that, and then every year after the 10 years, they could earn 5% with a cap at 100% of the employer contribution at 20 years. And then the employee must also, of course, retire from the authority within 120 days or have 20 years of service or retire on disability to receive this benefit. We also, looked at kind of the financial scenario. So we were, say we used Randy as an example. He came to work for the authority in 2010. He had 27 years of CalPERS credit already. So he was over 50, of retirement age. So, he could have worked, Yeah, just so he could have worked 6 months and retired and had this 95% employer contribution, and so that's what we're trying to eliminate is that loophole where he would have to stay at least 5 years to get this benefit. So with that scenario, let's say he's got a family of 2, he lives to 78. That would cost the authority $490,000. So by doing this, it would help decrease that by about $80,000. And so we're seeking today your support to adopt Resolution 1950A, which would allow the authority to be subject to Government Code Section 22893. It would allow us to adopt the CalPERS health vesting requirements for future annuitants effective November 1st, 2019. And we're also asking that you adopt Resolution 1951A, and that has to do with the health vesting change that we did earlier this year of changing the 95% Kaiser Bay Area Basic to the 95% Kaiser Region 1, and that would be effective January 1st. This concludes my presentation, and I'll take any questions that you may have.
Questions? Newell?
Well, maybe a comment question. First of all, I just want to thank you, Brian, and those, and Randy, who worked on this. I had a nice conversation yesterday with Brian about it, because when I read it, I thought I knew what it said, and then I didn't. But it really closes a loophole where somebody who worked for another agency could jump in, that didn't have any post-retirement medical benefits, could jump in, work here one day, and retire and get benefits. And this really makes us an agency of choice, but it also means that you're coming here because you want to work here. So I think this is a fair balance to do that. It does save us potentially some money. And just really appreciate the fact is that there's a proactive thought process to look at this, make us that we are a competitive employer, but also make sure that we're being financially responsible. And not all agencies do that. So really just a big, huge thank you to all of you.
Bob?
What's the percentage of, do we have any idea what the percentage, how it's going to affect the employees?
Well, the current employees won't be affected unless they opt in on their own decree. Otherwise, it'll only be for employees that are hired on November 1st or after.
This November?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, they have a cutoff of the 10th, so I won't make it till October 10th, which would make it effective November 1st.
Oh, okay.
It's a CalPERS, their deadline, so.
So everyone is grandfathered into the current
That is
program.
currently here, everybody.
Right.
Okay.
So the current employees are not affected.
Correct.
So hopefully they will all stay at least 5 years, if not longer, because we love our employees. So this is a good catch. Any other comments, questions, or a motion?
I'd move the item as presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Arnrich, second by Taylor. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you very
Thank you.
much to all of you for putting this together. I think this is a really good catch, and I'm glad that our current employees are happy, and we intend to keep them that way. And hopefully we wouldn't get anyone that would come to work for us for a day just to get that benefit. But if they had that idea, let's make sure that we don't hire anybody until November 1st, right? All right, very good. Okay, so we're good to go on legislative update. Lindsay's going to kick this one off.
Yes, good morning. I'm really glad Terry Ann decided not to use me as the example in that. Thank you. I'll just give you a quick update on federal matters. Mark Watts just let me know that he just parked in the garage, so he should be running in shortly. Your federal update is pretty thick because we've had a few months to cover, but really there's just kind of two things that I want to highlight. One is not in here, and that is that U.S. DOT is expected to announce some grant awards sometime in the month of September, and CCTA has thrown our hat in the ring for a few grants, one in particular on automated vehicle demonstrations. So we have our fingers crossed that we will get some good news on that. Hopefully I didn't just jinx it by actually saying that. So hopefully we will have some good news to share with the board sometime this month on that. And secondly, really kind of the big item affecting CCTA is that work work on America's Transportation Infrastructure Act of 2019 is kicking off. This is the reauthorization of the FAST Act. So our federal team is working to put together some additional information for you guys. MTC has also started to gather input from the regions, the different counties on what they would like to see in this as they build their legislative ask for this effort. So I am predicting that you will hear a lot about that from us over the course of the next year, but I just wanted to highlight that that's probably going to get started in earnest here fairly soon. So with that, hi Mark. I will turn
Good
it over
morning,
to
Mark.
Mr. Watts unless there are any questions on the federal platform.
Any questions on federal? All right, Mark, the stage is yours. What's happening in Sacramento?
Well, all sorts of things. First, unexpectedly, kind of surprise announcement yesterday of the new Caltrans director, and I'll pronounce his name incorrectly, but I'll try my best. His name is Tox Omishakin, and he's a management level executive with the Tennessee Department of Transportation. His background and expertise has been in active transportation and walking and bicycling organizations throughout the country. He's the vice chair of the AASHTO ATP committee, so he brings that kind of perspective to the Caltrans directorship. Fortunately, they have a brand new chief deputy named Jim Davis, who a lot of us have worked with over the years, and he, from my perspective personally, his stewardship in terms of implementing and overseeing the implementation at Caltrans of SB1 has been exemplary. So to have an SB1 expert in there while we have a new director from out of state, I think is very, very beneficial to us to keep the momentum going. So those are the two new appointments that I thought I'd just put on the table and mention. Beyond that, there's several bills that the organization has been actively involved with. First, yesterday, AB 1025, the Iron Horse Trail, which the authority's been monitoring and the county is sponsoring, passed off the floor and is on its way back for concurrence in the Assembly. So that should happen. So that's moving pretty well. There had been a little concern, just to be upfront, from finance. They don't think giving up potential $10 million in public transportation account money that's 35 years old is the right thing for the state. But I've met with the governor's staff, and they've been with us all along when they were at the secretary's office and the like. So I think we have a good shot at getting it passed. Moving on, the CMGC bill, which started off as a CCTA-only CMGC authority, which grew as the author got more comfortable with CMGC and the need in other communities and counties. It's now a statewide bill, and it is to the governor. So that went very, very, very well. Had a lot of help, I will say, from UConn, the United Contractors, in getting this together and moving it forward. So they continue to monitor and watch this. The controversial bill is still not settled. SB 277, the bill that deals with the local partnership program. It's kind of like watching the Civil War where brothers and sisters were fighting each other. There's a lot of hard feelings in the Capitol between folks who are on one side or the other. You know, the CTC is making a stand to say we want to have a 50% of the local partnership money available for them to hand out on a competitive basis. And the organizations around the state, including the authority here, are saying, no, that's not right. We need to do it the way we've done it, because having 85% of the money coming to us on a formula basis means we can count on that money, and it makes our ability to program the rest of our program more clear and certain. So it's a really big battle, but it's become very nasty between some of the commissioners and some of the executives around the state. And that bill was amended, nothing that was germane to the main focus of the bill, and it's on the assembly floor, ready to go be taken up. One bill that staff asked me about to monitor and track took a funny turn. That's 1428, the rental cap bill. As you probably know now, it's become the centerpiece for whatever the ultimate final agreement on a rental cap program would look like. So it was sent to Rules Committee to sit there while discussions and fine tuning go on in terms of that. So I can't tell you what's going to be in the bill. I did provide staff and others the governor's pronouncement, but that's all I've been able to get my hands on. So it's still in motion, but we'll know by next Friday where it stands, because that's the end of the session. And last but not least, there was a minor change to your enabling statutes that deals with who signs the bonds, and that has been contained in the omnibus bill, and that's moving along very well. Like I said, it's a very minor enabling statute change. The other major enabling statute change we were trying to get into motion, clarifying the rule on contractors' retention. We've got support for it, but we just couldn't find a measure. The last measure we tried to put it into was Mr. Grayson's Iron Horse Trail bill, but because of the uncertainty with finance, it was better to retain it. Mr. Grayson's staff has indicated that he and his office would like to carry the bill for the authority next year. So at this point, I think that's a really good offer to work with him during the interim. So that's it on individual bills that of interest and note that I would highlight right now. The one last item I would mention is the what they call the SAFE rule. It's the Trump administration's proposal to reduce CAFE standards, fuel efficiency standards for vehicles, and they call it the SAFE rule because they say it'll allow bigger, heavier cars to run around, and they're safer than smaller, lighter, more agile cars. The problem is for California, the minute it becomes effective, it will throw a monkey wrench into all of the MPO regional transportation plans, RTPs, as well as the SCS, as the Sustainable Community Strategies. An organization I work with has been doubled up with CalCog trying to get a partial fix into play. And we got the word to stop it from the governor's office the other day. They would rather fight it legally and take more time, which I think is almost criminal in its approach, but that's their prerogative, and we've stepped down. So what we were trying to do, just put it on the table, is there are two programs that are competitive grant programs from SB1, the trade program and the congested corridor program. If you do not have a valid RTP or SCS, you can't compete. And we were just trying to crack that open a little bit to allow major MPOs around the state that are in the final stages of updating their RTPs and SCSs. So it's a little disheartening. We worked very hard on it, but at this point, we'll have to see how the Trump administration does with its proposed regulation. And with that, I'll draw it to a close, except to say traffic in Northern California is ugly today.
Especially when a chicken truck turns over and thousands of chickens are all over the road. All right, any questions about legislation or anything for, yes, Bob?
The question for you, and just it's going to be just your take. How do you think, since the governor now is kind of set in, we're beginning to know what he's about, maybe, what is his staff and he on transportation? Is he a kind of a transportation advocate, or is he?
Okay.
That's it's.
No, other priorities. I think he's probably on the one hand relieved that we all dealt with SB1 before he got here, so he didn't have to associate himself with a major tax increase. That's, parts of it are unpopular still to this day. He's got some sharp people working on transportation at the next level down. The legislative person in the governor's office is very good. The new secretary is going to be off the charts good, but he's just settling in. And with the new Caltrans director from out of state, it's kind of an odd mixture. So they're not going to be as strongly focused ever, I think, during his tenure on transportation, except for pushing for, I think, more funding or more Caltrans participation or implementation of active transportation, less interest in roadway issues. So that's my take on it.
So the self-help counties and the regions are going to have to really be the ones to pick that up and work with the legislature for what we need.
That's correct. And I would just add on to everything I said, we do have a very, very interested legislature. I think the work that was done that carried over through SB1 and the implementation has a lot of focus and continues to retain focus. And I think that's a good thing.
Okay. Other questions? All right. I don't think there's anything we have to take action on at this point. It's a little too late in the game anyway, so we will wait and see what happens in the next 6 days and what makes it to the governor's desk, and then hopefully he will sign what we need him to sign. So wonderful. Thank you, Mark. We appreciate your efforts to get down here this morning. Hopefully going home will be a whole lot easier. So thank you very much. All right. I believe that takes care of this morning's agenda, other than any commissioner and staff comments? Comments, Randy?
Yeah, I have one, maybe a couple comments. One, Tokes actually has been to California, to Contra Costa, a couple times, so he's been to our Redefining Mobility Summit twice, and so I texted him a note congratulating him on his appointment. And then along the separate opposite lines, Martin Engelman has sent me a note, and he is going to retire at the end of the month. His last day will be Monday, September 30th, and he's going to go work across the street for Stantec. And it's kind of like coming full circle, because I think that's where the building where you...
That's the building where we were when he came on, exactly.
Yeah, I asked him if he wanted to come here and say a few words, but he's not here. So I just want to let you know that he's announced his retirement at the end of the month.
All righty. Well, that'll be the end of an era. All right. Any commissioner comments? Any other staff comments? If not...
You'll be there tonight, Randy?
Yes, Randy is going to present at the mayor's conference in San Pablo. So hopefully the truck will be out of the way by then, and we can actually get to San Pablo. All right. With that, we are adjourned to our next meeting on Thursday, October 3rd. Thank you all very much.
You adjourn?